Hello, everyone. Today we're going to talk about JavaScript. To begin with, we need two new tags, an opening script tag and a closing script tag. All of our JavaScript will go between these two tags, right? So how do we begin? Well, first, why don't we look at some syntax? Let's make some variables. So we use var to define our variable. Let's say our variable is going to be score. Okay, so that's the name of our variable, and let's give it some value. Let's say 100. All right, so we have defined the variable score as 100. This is a number variable. All right, we can have var name equals Michael. All right, so this is a string variable, okay, number string. You can also have almost anything between quotes is a string. My name is Michael. That's also a string variable. So specifically, this is a string data type. This is a number data type. All right. All right. We can also have data type undefined, var location. Okay, I don't have anything defined for the location. It's undefined. Okay, I could also have something called a Boolean that's either true or false. Var, let's say, answer equals true. Okay, this is data type of Boolean, specifically true. Okay, great. All right, so there's others. There's object, there's null, there's a few others, but these will get us started. All right, so now what can we do with these? Well, why don't we show you how to display them to the console? All right, so console, I can spell, .log. Let's look at our score. All right. Okay. So there's two places to look to see the console. One, it'll give you a console here. Okay, so you see the number 100. Okay, so what is this doing? It's logging this variable here to the console.log score. All right, but you can also see it. There's nothing in our web page, but we can also see it in our web page if we're using Google Chrome. Control-Shift-J brings up our console. Okay, so we have our 100 in our console now. The console is useful for checking things and debugging, amongst other things. All right, so not only that, we can in JavaScript, we can add values. For example, let's say var score 1 equals 10, var score 2 equals 20 or 30, okay? So var total equals score 1 plus score 2. All right, so let's get rid of this console.log here. And let's console.log total, okay? And it should be 40. All right, let's see. Okay, 40. I'm not going to jump back and forth between the web pages anymore. I'm assuming you believe that this console here is the same as this console here. All right, great. We can add, like you just saw, we can subtract, we can multiply, we can divide. We can also use something called the remainder operator. So, and we can do these evaluations within the console.log parentheses. So let's say, well, let me show you console.log 4 times 5. All right. Oops. All right, so we see 4 times 5 is 20, okay? But what I want to show you is the remainder operator. Let's say 5 remainder 2. So what this does, excuse me, so what this is it's 5 divided by 2, and it produces the remainder. So we know we should have a remainder of 1. And it does. Okay, see? Great. We can also concatenate strings. For example, let's say var word 1 equals happy. Var word 2 equals hippo. Okay, so var together equals word 1 plus word 2. It isn't, I mean, isn't an additive, it's concatenating them. So if we console dot log together, we should see happy hippo is one word, and we do. What we can also do is we can add a space. There we go. Okay, so we concatenated a space. So now we see happy hippo with a space between them. Okay, that's pretty good. All right. So next, why don't we take a look at some statements? Let's just kind of clean up what we have here. All right. So we know what Booleans are. I just showed you. So again, var I don't know, value 1 equals true. Okay, so that's a Boolean true. Var value 2 equals false. Okay, so that's a Boolean false. So now we can have statements. The most simple statement is an if statement. If something is true, then do what's inside the statement. All right, so for example, if true and do what's here, do whatever's in here. So for example, if true, console.log the string this was true. Okay, let's see. Okay, so it outputted this was true. Okay, so one thing I forgot to say, at the end of every statement in JavaScript, you need a semicolon. So semicolon here, semicolon here. You've seen me do it, I just haven't said it, okay? Now, this is an interesting thing here. The end of this if statement is actually here. This line right here doesn't end the if statement, okay? This, however, is a separate statement within the if construct. Okay, so now let's try something false. Say false, okay? I can spell. All right, so now, since this is false here, this should not evaluate. Okay, it doesn't. All right, so now, again, we could use a variable, value 1, all right? We know value 1 is true, so this evaluates. We can also have an expression in here. Let's say if 5 is less than 100. We know 5 is less than 100. We know this expression is true. So what this statement will do is it'll evaluate this statement here, see if it's true or false. If it's true, then it'll evaluate this. If it's false, it won't. Okay, so we know 5 is definitely less than 100. Let's try 5 is greater than 100. Okay, so since 5 is not greater than 100, this is false, so this expression here will not evaluate. Okay. What we can also do is do an if-else statement. So if, for example, if we have something here that's false, it'll evaluate whatever's here. So let's say, let's say false. False. So console.log this was false. Okay. So since I put false here, it'll skip this statement here and go to this else statement here and evaluate this. So we should see this was false. And we do. This was false. Okay. Notice that I deleted the semicolon that was right here and put it here, since this is now the end of the if-else statement. Okay, great. Let's just, let's just try 5 is less than 4. Let's see what happens. Okay, so we know that 5 is not less than 4. So this bit here will run, will be evaluated. Okay, we can also add more statements here. Else if, excuse me, not else if. Yeah, else if. Else. Okay, so we could have, let's say, we can have multiple conditions. Let's say, let's just say this is false. And let's say this is true. And let's say console.log, did I run? Okay, so now let's try to figure out what's going to happen here. Have a bit more complicated statement, okay? So we have, if this is false, excuse me, the if statement will look if this is true, okay? So, but I'm saying it's false, so this will not evaluate. Else if, okay, it'll check this. Is this true? Well, true. Let's change this to false. So this is true, okay? Since this is true, this will evaluate, and this will not evaluate. Okay, so let's just see what happens. Okay, so this is true. So this statement right here evaluated since this was false, this and this was true. Okay, so this evaluated, so the entire if construct is done. We don't have to continue on. But let's just see if we put a false here. Okay, so then this one run. Okay, so why is this useful? We can have multiple, we can have another if else, excuse me, else if. Okay, why don't we try something? We can use, first let me show you some comparative operators really quickly. So let's say I'm comparing two things. If they're equal, you need a triple equal sign, okay? This is equal is assignment, some variable equals some value, okay? This right here is comparison. If A is equal to B, we can have less than or equal to. We can have, if it's, excuse me, greater than or equal to. We could have greater than, we could have less than, so forth and so on. We'll just, or less than or equal to. We'll use them. We'll use them as we go on. All right. So let's say we have something like this. Let's say we have, let's say their weather equals windy. Okay. So I assigned the variable weather. I assigned the variable weather as windy. Okay, the string windy. Okay, so we look outside and it's windy. So if, let's say, weather equals hot, let's say the weather is hot. Okay, else if, let's say the weather equals cold. Oops. The weather is cold. All right, let's do one more. So else if weather equals, if the weather is windy, well, let's console.log. The weather is windy. Else I don't know. Okay, so what do we have here? We have a variable a string variable, which I'm assigning to Windy. Then I'm checking, this is a comparison, okay? I'm checking, is the weather hot? If the weather is hot, then it'll run this here. If the weather is cold, it'll run this. If the weather is windy, it'll run this. If none of these are true, then it'll say, I don't know. So let's see what happens. Okay, great. It says the weather is windy. Since it goes through this, it checks to see if the weather is equal to windy, which it is, and then it'll it'll produce this expression here. I should have a semicolon there. Okay, and there we go. All right. So JavaScript is somewhat lax. It'll kind of let you do things even if it's syntactically not perfect. For example, you should always have these curly braces here, but I forgot them and JavaScript let me go. JavaScript will try to help you out. Okay, now let's just say the weather is snowy. All right. So it spits out, I don't know, because I don't have an expression for snowy. You could say it's cold, but we don't snowy. I mean, cold is not equal to snowy. However, let's introduce two more comparison operators. One is and. Okay, so and is like that. So that's and. So if you have, let's say A and B, if both A and B are true, then this expression is true. If one of them is false, then this is false. If both are false, this is false. Another one is or. So if both of these are false, then this is false. If both of them are true, it's true. If one of them is true, then it's true. Okay, so now let's try to use that. So I have the weather is cold. The weather is cold. Why don't I try my or weather is snowy. Okay, so previously it said I don't know. Okay, but now I have this or here. So now it's going to look, is the weather cold or is the weather snowy? If it's snowy outside, then it'll produce the weather is cold. Let's see what happens. Okay, so it properly says the weather is cold. Since even though this is false because I have the weather defined as snowy, this here is true. Okay, so false or true is true. So it'll evaluate this expression in here. All right, let's see. Just a little bit more. The last thing I want to do is comments. So now what we can do is we can put comments in our code. The comments are completely ignored by the browser. Okay, so this is a comment. Okay, so in this case, I have this text here between this backslash star backslash. Okay, so anything in here would be completely ignored again. So let's just delete everything so far. All right, so it says nothing. Another way to put another way to put a comment is with these two slashes here. I'm not a big fan of that, and so this is also a comment. Again, nothing happens. The negative, so This will work for the entire line, okay? This will work for as test, test, test. This will work for anything between these two, no matter how far it is. This will just comment out this line. I prefer this. Okay, so I know exactly what I'm commenting out. All right, so again, so we see nothing. All right, so that's the end for today. All right, I will see you next time, and thank you for watching.